You're listening to the Health Powered Productivity Podcast by Rader Co. I'm Marcey Rader, keynote speaker, consultant, and your host on high performance. In each bite-sized episode, I'll discuss topics like relentless prioritization, time and attention guardrails that stick, meeting makeovers, remote work, and sustainable habits you'll actually keep. Share this with your team or use it as pre-work before your next meeting. Hi, I'm Marcey Rader, coach, consultant, and speaker on high performance and productivity. And this week's episode of the Health Powered Productivity Podcast is a little different. I'm going to test out recording on video, and it's also a recap, if you will, of 3 recent episodes. So a few weeks ago, while in a long TSA line at the Atlanta airport, and you remember the time I'm talking about, I started recording a voice memo of what I was seeing around me. It was the government improving a symptom before addressing a source. Unfortunately, I also see this with some leadership. And when it comes to meetings, the first question is not how to run them better. It's whether the meeting should exist at all. That is where most teams start too late. They shorten the meeting, they add an agenda, they tweak the invite list, we make it 25 minutes instead of 30, we call it progress. But meanwhile, the real problem stays untouched. And that is that the meeting never needed to happen in the first place. And yes, I recommend all of those things that I just mentioned, but only after making sure that the meeting is actually important. And that is why so many teams are exhausted by calendars that look full and days that feel unproductive. They are not drowning in meetings because they lack tips. And yes, I give plenty of tips, but those should be coming after relentless prioritization. Most teams are overwhelmed because leadership has not made priorities visible. And I have a podcast episode called That Same Thing. Because if everything is important, leadership has given up. A better meeting strategy starts higher up the chain. Before you fix the format, fix the decision-making behind it. So let's walk through the meeting reset in the order that actually helps. First, ask yourself the uncomfortable question, or ask your team, is this meeting even necessary? Don't ask, could this be useful? Might this be nice to discuss? Should we just get time on the calendar? No, necessary. And that one question can eliminate a shocking amount of meeting clutter. Because a lot of meetings are really one of these things in disguise. Status update. A recap for people who did not read the email or the pre-work. Could be a leader's anxiety management system. A decision that should have been made before the invite even went out. Or a conversation with 2 necessary people, which I call players, and 8 spectators. Or sometimes a visibility strategy. And yes, this can happen more with remote employees who feel like being on a meeting is the only way to be visible. And that anxiety does not come out of nowhere. But hosting unnecessary meetings or attending them to prove you exist is still a bad trade. Now, that last one, the 2 needed people and the 8 spectators, is especially common. We invite broadly because it feels safer, more inclusive, more collaborative. Because we can allow loads of bodies in our Zoom room, but usually it is just slower. If people are not making a decision or contributing critical context or owning a next step, they may not need to be there. Just because people can attend doesn't mean they should. Second, replace meetings before you improve them. This is where a lot of teams miss the easiest win. Some meetings do not need to be shortened. They need to be replaced. I'm a huge, huge fan of Loom. I think I've already recorded 4 podcasts about Loom, blog posts about Loom. We use it all day long. And it can often do the job better than a live meeting when the goal is sharing a status update, walking through a document, reviewing slides, giving background before a decision discussion, or explaining a process once instead of repeating it 5 times. Async video respects attention because people can watch when they are ready to focus and they can rewatch what matters. They can speed it up, slow it down. They can come to the live discussion prepared to decide instead of sitting through a recap. And that is the shift more teams need. Lifetime should be for discussion, judgment, nuance, decisions, not narration. And if your meeting is mostly one person talking through something other people could consume on their own, you do not have a collaboration problem. You have a format problem, and often an unnecessary meeting problem. And let's be honest, if people are stuck in a meeting like that, they're probably answering emails anyway. So now you don't have, focused meeting time or focused work time. You have both of those happening badly. If the meeting stays because you've determined it is priority, shorten it by narrowing it. Most bad meetings are too long because they're too vague. Too many people, too many topics, too little prep, too much tolerance for going off topic. Don't be afraid to say, well, put that in the parking lot, or let's table that for the next meeting. Don't let somebody hijack your agenda. Shorter meetings are not a calendar hack. They are the result of clearer thinking. The fastest ways to shorten a meeting are not fancy. Reduce the attendee list. Define the purpose in one sentence. Send pre-work early enough that people can actually do it. And identify the decision that needs to be made. When the decision is made, end the meeting. Reduce the attendee list to players, not spectators. If someone is not contributing, making a decision, or learning something they genuinely need to know, let them use that time to do work. This sounds obvious because it is, but obvious and common are not the same thing. A 50-minute meeting with no purpose is not better because you trimmed it to 25 minutes. Now you just have a shorter bad meeting. The goal is not to become more efficient at wasting people's time. The goal is to stop wasting it. Fourth, design meetings for real brains. Because once you have decided that that meeting is necessary, then design matters a lot. Because most meetings are built for the mythical employee who can process instantly, tolerate constant stimulation, sit still indefinitely, ignore distractions in the chat and the thumbs up and the hearts and the emojis and other things going on, and contribute equally well. That employee does not exist. And if you want better meetings, design for real humans and real brains. And that means sending agendas in advance so people can think before they speak. Avoid cold calling someone out when reflection would produce better input. Allow camera flexibility when video fatigue is a real thing. Let them be off camera for 5 or 10 minutes, especially when they're eating lunch. It's so gross. Encourage people to turn off their self-view. Reduce chat because it's a distraction. Just say, no thumbs up emojis, hearts, all that type of thing. Create space for movement, note-taking, doodling. Have breaks between meetings. These are not special perks. They are smart design choices. And I have a podcast episode just dedicated to designing meetings for neurodivergent brains because they usually work better for everyone. More clarity, less overstimulation, better contribution. And fewer people silently checking out while pretending to be engaged. That is not lowering the bar. That is removing unnecessary friction. 5, some meetings should be walked, not scheduled. Not every good conversation belongs in a conference room or on a screen. Walking meetings, what I call walkie-talkies, can be a better fit for one-to-ones, coaching conversations, relationship building, brainstorming, and lower stakes problem solving. You get outside, you have the cathedral effect, more creative. A walking meeting changes the energy. It reduces formality, increases candor. It gives people the movement their brain needed in the first place. I have at least 2 or 3 of these a week. I actually have one tomorrow and 2 the day after. Better meetings are not about better agendas. Sometimes they're about better format. And the question is not, how do we improve this meeting? It's what is the best way to achieve this outcome? And that is a very different question. And it leads to much better choices. And lastly, here's the part that some leaders often want to skip. Meeting overload is usually not a meeting problem first. It is a prioritization problem. When priorities are unclear, meetings multiply. When the ownership of something is fuzzy, meetings multiply. When leaders avoid trade-offs, meetings multiply. When people do not trust decisions, they multiply. They become a substitute for clarity, a holding tank for unresolved priorities, and a place to keep work moving without making the harder call about what should stop. And this is why optimization without relentless prioritization is really just organized depletion. You can shorten meetings, improve agendas, and give everyone better templates. But if your team is still meeting about too much work that should not at all be happening, you have not solved the issue. Can you tell I am very passionate about this? This is part of my Meeting Mojo presentation. I'm just giving it to you. Here's the meeting reset in order. First, is it even necessary? Second, can it be replaced with async communication? Third, if it must stay, who actually needs to be there? Players only. Fourth, what decision or outcome is required? And fifth, how do we design this meeting so people can actually think, contribute, and leave with clarity? That is the reset. Not prettier agendas, not shorter meetings that still should have been emails. Not more ways to avoid prioritization. Fewer unnecessary meetings, better designed necessary ones. Clearer priorities behind both. Because the goal is not to become excellent at attending meetings. It's to create a culture where meetings support the work instead of becoming the work. And that starts with a question more leaders need to ask out loud. Is this meeting even necessary? If this episode gave you a better framework for thinking about meetings, share it with your team. Send it to the leader who keeps scheduling quick syncs. But also take a hard look at your calendar for the next 2 weeks. Where are you improving the symptom instead of addressing the source? That is where your meeting reset starts. And if you would like help resetting your meeting culture, please reach out to me at helloraderco.com. I would love to help. As you can tell, I'm very passionate about giving people their time back.
Thanks for listening to the Health Powered Productivity Podcast. Show notes link to every tool and takeaway. If you got value, subscribe, leave a review, and pass it along to your team. For more bite-sized tools and ways to work with Rader Co., whether through consulting, coaching, or speaking, visit helloraderco.com.